Volunteer teacher transforms classroom in rural village. Students achieve amazing results that inspire the entire education system. Elijah Mercer stepped into the classroom, his heart pounding in rhythm with the creaking of the old wooden floor. The air felt thick, heavy, with a sense of disinterest that hung like a dark cloud over the tired faces of the students. A few heads turned to glance at him, but most remained focused on their desks or the clock on the wall, each tick echoing their apathy. Elijah took a deep breath, determined to break through this wall of indifference. "Good morning, everyone," he said, his voice warm but firm. "I'm Mr. Mercer, and I'm excited to be your teacher this year." No response. He scanned the room, noticing a girl in the back, Marisol, who avoided eye contact as if the floor was suddenly the most interesting thing in the world. Next to her, Jackson slouched in his seat, arms crossed defiantly, a smirk on his face that screamed boredom. "Let's try something different today," Elijah continued, an idea forming in his mind. "How about we talk about music and art? What do you all like?" Silence fell again, broken only by the sound of a pencil tapping against the desk. Jackson finally rolled his eyes and muttered, "Art? Who cares about that?" Elijah felt a twinge of frustration, but reminded himself of his goal. He wanted to connect with them, to show them that learning could be more than just textbooks and tests. "Music can tell stories," he said, leaning against the desk. "It can express what we feel when words fail us. Can anyone tell me about a song that means something to them?" Slowly, Marisol raised her hand, her voice barely above a whisper. "I like Rise Up by Andra Day. It's hopeful." "Hopeful," Elijah repeated, nodding. "That's a powerful word. Hope can change everything. What about you, Jackson?" Jackson shrugged, still skeptical. "I don't know. Music is just noise." Elijah smiled, not deterred. "What if we could turn that noise into something meaningful? What if we could create something together?" He watched as Jackson's expression shifted slightly, intrigued despite himself. "Like what?" Jackson asked, one eyebrow raised. "Like an art project," Elijah proposed. "We can combine music and art, and each of you can express what you feel. It could be your story, your experiences. I believe art can help us understand each other better." The room buzzed with murmurs. Marisol's eyes flickered with curiosity, while Jackson looked at Elijah as if sizing him up. Elijah sensed that he was standing on the edge of something important, a chance to reach them. As the bell rang, signaling the end of the period, Elijah felt a mix of hope and uncertainty. He was determined to create a space where these students could feel safe enough to share their thoughts, but he also understood the weight of the challenge ahead. It was not just about teaching them subjects, it was about building trust. "Remember, class, we start our project tomorrow," Elijah announced as the students gathered their things. "I'll see you then." As they filed out, he caught a glimpse of Marisol lingering by the door. I might have an idea for the project," she said hesitantly, her eyes finally meeting his. "Fantastic," Elijah replied, his heart lifting. "I can't wait to hear it." With a small smile, Marisol disappeared into the hallway, leaving Elijah with a sense of possibility. He knew this was just the beginning, but he felt a spark of hope. Could he really connect with them? Would they let him in? The questions swirled in his mind as he prepared for the journey ahead, a journey that would challenge him in ways he never expected. Elijah Mercer stood in front of his classroom, a blank canvas waiting for the first strokes of paint. He had decided to start an art project that would invite not just the students, but also the community to participate. He believed that art could help them express their stories and emotions in ways that words sometimes could not. The idea brought a spark of hope to his heart. "All right, everyone," he said, his voice steady, yet inviting. "We are going to work on an art project together. I want you to think about your own stories or experiences. How have they shaped who you are?" He looked around the room, gauging the reactions of his students. Marisol, the shy girl sitting in the corner, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She avoided eye contact, her long hair falling over her face like a curtain. Jackson, on the other hand, rolled his eyes and let out a scoff. "Art? Really? What's that going to do for us?" he challenged, crossing his arms defiantly. Elijah took a breath, ready for the challenge. Sometimes, we need to look beyond the surface. Art can help us see things differently. It can show our struggles, our hopes, and even our dreams. I promise, it will be worth it. Slowly, the atmosphere in the room began to shift. The students exchanged glances, curiosity flickering beneath their initial resistance. As the project commenced, Marisol found herself drawn to the canvas. She chose colors carefully, letting her emotions guide her brush. With each stroke, memories of her family's struggles surfaced. She painted her parents working late, their tired faces showing the weight of the world. As she added details, she felt her own insecurities bubbling up. "What if nobody understands?" she whispered to herself, doubt creeping in. Meanwhile, Jackson was trying to maintain his tough exterior. He sat at the back of the room, arms crossed, but he couldn't help but listen as his classmates began to share their thoughts. A girl named Sarah spoke about her painting of a sunset, symbolizing hope for a better tomorrow. "It's like every day can start fresh," she said, her eyes lighting up. Jackson felt a spark of something he had not expected. Maybe there was value in this after all. He pulled out a notebook and began to write, his thoughts flowing onto the pages. He wrote about his internal battles, the pressure he felt to act tough, and the fear of not being accepted. "I never thought I'd actually enjoy this," Jackson admitted to Elijah during a break, glancing at his notebook. "It's kind of freeing to just let it all out." Elijah smiled, thrilled to see the shift in Jackson. "That's exactly what this project is about. It's a chance for all of you to express yourselves without judgment." Days passed, and excitement grew in the classroom. Students began to bring in their artwork, each piece telling a story. Marisol found courage in sharing her painting with others. "This is my family," she announced, her voice shaking but resolute. "We work hard, but sometimes it feels like we are losing hope." The class listened intently, and for the first time, Marisol felt seen. She noticed Jackson nodding, and understanding passing between them. As the final days of the project approached, the classroom buzzed with anticipation. Students painted murals, created sculptures, and wrote stories. They began to form connections, supporting one another and sharing their fears and dreams. Elijah watched with pride as the atmosphere shifted from one of apathy to one of camaraderie. The art project became a bridge between their lives and the community. "I can't believe we are really doing this," one of the students said excitedly. "We are sharing who we are." Elijah nodded, feeling a sense of fulfillment he had not known before. They were not just creating art, they were building trust and understanding among themselves. The classroom had transformed into a safe space, and Elijah knew they were stepping into a new chapter together. The day of the art exhibition arrived, and the atmosphere in the auditorium buzzed with excitement. Families and community members filled the seats, chatting cheerfully as they awaited the show. Colorful artwork adorned the walls, each piece telling a unique story. Elijah Mercer stood near the entrance, his heart racing with anticipation. He hoped this event would be a turning point for his students. As the lights dimmed, Elijah took a deep breath. He glanced at Marisol, who stood nervously beside her painting. It was a beautiful piece, a depiction of her family under a stormy sky, with bright colors breaking through the clouds. "You'll do great, Marisol," he said gently, offering her a reassuring smile. Marisol nodded, but her eyes were wide with fear. "What if they don't understand?" she whispered. "They will," Elijah promised. "Just speak from your heart." When it was time for Marisol to present, she stepped up to the microphone. The audience fell silent, their eyes fixed on her. She looked at her painting and then at the crowd. Hi, my name is Marisol," she began, her voice trembling slightly. Elijah watched with pride as Marisol took a deep breath and continued. "This is my painting. It shows my family. Sometimes we have hard times, like when my dad lost his job. But I also painted the light because I believe things can get better." Her words were simple yet powerful, and Elijah could see tears forming in the eyes of some audience members. A deep silence enveloped the room, and the weight of Marisol's vulnerability settled over everyone. They could feel her pain and hope. Elijah noticed that even Jackson, who usually wore a tough facade, was listening intently, his expression shifting from indifference to empathy. After Marisol finished, the audience erupted in applause. She smiled, relief washing over her as she returned to her seat. Elijah felt a swell of pride for her bravery. It was a moment that would linger in the hearts of everyone present. As the exhibition continued, Jackson's turn came to present his story. He had written about his struggles, about feeling lost and angry. He stood up, his hands shaking slightly. "I didn't want to be here today," he admitted. "But watching Marisol, I realized I'm not alone. We all have our battles." His voice grew stronger as he spoke. "This is my story, and I hope it helps someone else feel seen." Elijah watched as Jackson's words resonated throughout the auditorium. The connection between the students deepened, and laughter broke out as they shared snippets of their stories. The laughter was a welcome sound, a reminder that they were finding joy together. After the presentations, students mingled with their families, sharing their thoughts about each artwork. Elijah noticed Marisol and Jackson standing together, discussing their pieces. "Your painting was amazing," Jackson said, his voice genuine. "I didn't know you had to go through so much." "Thanks," Marisol replied, her cheeks flushed with happiness. "I'm glad I could share it." Elijah approached them, feeling a warmth in his heart. "You both did an incredible job today. I'm proud of you." Jackson looked up at Elijah, his eyes shining with newfound respect. "I didn't think art could mean so much. It helped me see things differently. Thanks for pushing us to do this." Elijah smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment. "You found your voices. That's what matters most." As the exhibition came to a close, the auditorium buzzed with conversations filled with excitement and hope. Families embraced their children, proud of their courage and creativity. Elijah felt a sense of victory, knowing that he had helped his students break through the walls they had built around themselves. In that moment, he realized the exhibition was not just about art. It was about connection, understanding, and growth. It was a celebration of their journey together, one that would leave a lasting impact on everyone involved. The days following the art exhibition were filled with a mixture of excitement and reflection. In the classroom, students began to share their thoughts about the event. The atmosphere was different now. They were more open, their voices stronger than before. "Did you see how everyone reacted to our art?" Marisol asked, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. She sat next to Jackson, who had a thoughtful look on his face. "Yeah," Jackson replied, still processing the emotions that had surfaced during the exhibition. "It felt good to share. I didn't think people would care." Elijah watched them from his desk, a small smile creeping onto his face. He felt proud of their progress. Each student was beginning to find their voice, a small but significant victory. But as he observed their joy, a shadow of doubt crept into his mind. He wondered if this change was real or just a momentary spark. Later that week, a group of parents gathered for a meeting at the school. Elijah prepared himself for the usual concerns about his teaching methods. As he entered the room, he could feel the tension hanging in the air. "I'm not sure about this art thing," one father began, his arms crossed. "Is painting really going to help kids learn math or science? They need to focus on real subjects." Elijah took a deep breath. "I understand your concern, but art is a way for students to express themselves. It helps them build confidence. When they share their stories, they feel valued." Another parent chimed in, "But what about the grades? Are they improving?" Before Elijah could respond, Jackson stood up. "Actually, my grades are better now. I started writing more because of the project. I never thought I could do that before." The room went silent. Parents exchanged glances, surprised by Jackson's sudden openness. Elijah saw this as a turning point. Marisol added, "I used to be scared to talk in class, but after sharing my painting, I feel braver. I want to learn more." Elijah felt a rush of gratitude for his students. They were becoming advocates for their own education, showing the parents that something had changed. As the meeting continued, Elijah faced skepticism, but was buoyed by the support of his students. After the meeting, Jackson approached Elijah, his expression sincere. "Thanks for believing in me, Mr. Mercer," he said. "I really didn't think I had anything to say before." Elijah nodded, feeling a warmth in his chest. "You always had a voice, Jackson. You just needed the chance to use it." But later that night, as Elijah sat alone in his small apartment, his thoughts turned heavy. He had poured so much of himself into his students, yet uncertainty gnawed at him. Had he truly made a lasting impact? Or was this just a temporary change? Elijah thought of Marisol and Jackson, the way they had blossomed. He recalled the look in Marisol's eyes as she found the courage to speak, and the way Jackson's words had resonated with the audience. Those moments were powerful, but could they sustain themselves? He picked up his guitar, strumming a few chords, letting the music soothe his worries. Music had always been his escape, a way to connect with feelings he sometimes struggled to express. The next day, in class, Elijah decided to address his concerns. "I want to talk about what we've experienced together. How do you all feel after the exhibition?" Marisol raised her hand. "I feel like I can do anything now. If I can share my story, I can face anything." "Me too," Jackson added. "It's like I found a part of myself I didn't know was there." Elijah listened intently, his heart swelling with pride. Their words reassured him, reminding him why he chose this path. As the class continued, Elijah realized that he had helped them uncover their voices, but they had also helped him find his purpose. He might still have doubts, but he knew he had planted seeds of change. With each passing day, he hoped to see them grow even more. The classroom buzzed with ideas and laughter, a stark contrast to the heavy silence from before. Elijah watched as his students interacted, forming connections that went beyond art. They were learning to support one another, to trust, and to share their lives. In that moment, Elijah knew he could not give up. They were all on this journey together, and every small step mattered. As the school year moved forward, Elijah Mercer began to see changes in his classroom that filled him with hope. He watched as students who once sat quietly, lost in their thoughts, became more engaged. The heavy atmosphere of disinterest that had welcomed him at the start of the term began to fade. Instead, a new energy filled the room, and it brought smiles to Elijah's face. One sunny afternoon, as the class wrapped up an art project, Elijah noticed Marisol raising her hand more often. "Mr. Mercer," she said, a hint of excitement in her voice. "Can we share our ideas for the next project? I think we should do something about our dreams." Her confidence shone like a light, and her classmates nodded in agreement. "That sounds like a wonderful idea, Marisol," Elijah replied, his heart lifting at her enthusiasm. "Let's make a list of all the dreams we have. Everyone can contribute." Jackson, who had been quietly scribbling in his notebook, looked up at the mention of dreams. "I have an idea too," he said, his voice stronger than before. "What if we write a short story about our dreams? We could even illustrate it." The room buzzed with excitement, and Elijah felt a surge of pride for his students. Over the weeks, as they crafted their stories and paintings, Marisol and Jackson became allies in the classroom. Marisol often encouraged her peers, saying, "If I can share my story, so can you." Jackson, with his newfound passion for writing, inspired others to express their thoughts. "You have to let it out," he told his friends during a break. "It feels good when you do." Elijah watched as their confidence grew. The shy students were beginning to speak up, and the rebellious ones were finding purpose. During one class, he prompted them to share their progress. "How does it feel to create something that comes from your heart?" he asked. "It's freeing," Marisol answered, her eyes shining. "I never thought I could share my feelings like this. It's like I can finally breathe." Jackson added, "Yeah, and writing helps me understand what's going on in my head. It's like therapy." His honesty surprised Elijah, showing just how far Jackson had come from the boy who once scoffed at learning. As the weeks turned into months, Elijah felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had not just taught them about art and writing, he had helped them to connect with themselves and with each other. One afternoon, he overheard a conversation between Jackson and another student, Lily, as they worked together on their projects. "Do you think we can make it to the school newspaper?" Lily asked, her voice laced with hope. "Definitely," Jackson replied, a grin spreading across his face. "Let's show everyone what we can do. Our stories matter." Elijah smiled to himself, realizing that these students were beginning to understand the value of their voices. The classroom was no longer just a space for learning. It had transformed into a community of support and encouragement. One day, after class, Marisol approached Elijah. "Mr. Mercer, do you think we could have a small exhibition for our stories, like we did with the art?" "That's a brilliant idea, Marisol," he replied, feeling a rush of excitement. "Let's plan it. We can invite the community to come and see how much you all have grown." As the idea took shape, the students rallied around it. They worked hard to prepare, each one eager to share their journey. Elijah could see the pride in their eyes as they rehearsed their presentations. On the day of the exhibition, the classroom buzzed with nervous energy. "What if no one comes?" Jackson asked, his usual confidence wavering. "They will," Marisol said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We have something important to share." Elijah knew they were right. It was not just about the audience, it was about the courage they had built together. As the students took their places, Elijah reflected on how far they had all come. He understood now that education was not just about grades or tests. It was about fostering connections and nurturing dreams. As they stood together, united by their stories, Elijah felt a deep sense of pride swell within him. He had witnessed a transformation, not just in his students, but in himself as well. Education was truly a journey, and he was grateful to be a part of theirs. As the end of the school year approached, the air in the small Texas school felt different. Elijah Mercer stood by the window of his classroom, looking out at the vibrant colors of spring. He thought about the journey he had shared with his students. Each face that had once seemed tired and disinterested now glowed with hope and excitement. He felt a mix of emotions as he prepared to say goodbye. The classroom buzzed with chatter as students gathered for a farewell gathering. They had planned this moment to express their gratitude. Elijah could see Marisol and Jackson at the front, talking animatedly with their classmates. The energy in the room was electric, filled with laughter and stories. "Mr. Mercer," Marisol called out, her voice bright. "Do you remember when we first started painting? I was so scared to show my work." Elijah smiled, nodding. "I do remember, Marisol. You've come such a long way. Your painting was beautiful, and so was your speech." Jackson chimed in, leaning against a desk. "Yeah, I didn't think I could write anything worth sharing. But you showed me that my words matter." His tone was sincere, a stark contrast to the rebellious attitude he once had. Elijah's heart swelled with pride. "You both have shown so much growth. It's been incredible to see your confidence bloom." As the gathering continued, students took turns sharing their thoughts. One by one, they expressed how Elijah had changed their lives. A girl named Sophia stood up, her voice shaking a little. "You made learning fun, Mr. Mercer. I never liked school, but now I look forward to coming every day." Elijah felt the warmth of her words wash over him. "Thank you, Sophia. Remember, learning is not just about facts and figures. It's about finding your passion and following it." Another student, Carlos, added, "You taught us that it's okay to share our stories. I never felt brave enough before." "Exactly," Elijah replied, his eyes shining. "Your stories are powerful. They connect us and help us grow together." The students nodded, their faces serious for a moment, understanding the weight of their words. Then, laughter erupted again as they reminisced about their favorite moments in class. As the gathering came to a close, Marisol stepped forward once more. "We made something special this year, Mr. Mercer. You helped us find our voices." Elijah felt a lump in his throat. "And you all helped me remember why I became a teacher in the first place. You have shown me the true meaning of resilience and hope." With that, the students surrounded him, giving him hugs and high fives. Elijah felt the warmth of their gratitude, and he realized just how much these connections had changed him, too. After the gathering, as the students filed out of the classroom, Elijah took a moment to soak in the memories. He looked around at the colorful artwork hanging on the walls, each piece a testament to the growth they had all experienced together. As he packed his belongings, he whispered to himself, "This is not just a goodbye, it's a new beginning for all of us." When the last student left, Elijah took a deep breath and stepped outside. The sun was setting, casting a golden light over the school. He walked slowly, reflecting on each student's journey, from shy Marisol to the confident Jackson. He thought about the village and how it had started to recognize the power of education. He hoped that the seeds of hope and resilience they had planted would continue to grow long after he left. As Elijah drove away from the school, he felt a sense of fulfillment. He carried with him the memories of each student's growth and the powerful connections forged during the year. He knew that while he was leaving, their stories would stay with him forever, reminding him of the incredible impact a teacher can have on the lives of young people. Share this story if you believe that the power of education can transform lives and build resilience. Leave a comment about a teacher who inspired you and how their impact shaped your journey. Don't forget to subscribe for more uplifting stories like this one.